You're listening to Thursday Night AMP on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Thursday Night AngryMarks.com Pro Wrestling and Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. My name is Stevie J. I've got two co-hosts on the line. Abby couldn't be with us tonight. Unfortunately, she's not here, but we send our regards to her, and we'll have her back next week. And in the meantime, let's get to the other co-host on the line with me, starting with Jason Harland, a.k.a. The Great Sudoku.
Yeah, and unlike some wrestlers, I didn't have to change my name to Grand Metallic for the podcast this week.
We'll get into the Cruiserweight Classic in just a minute, but also joining us on the line, starting the show instead of coming in late for Jordan's Corner, here at the very beginning this week is Jordan J. Garber.
Yes, Jordan J. Garber is here once again. Everyone around the world is listening to me, which is a great thing, and that is live on AngryMarks.com on Thursday Night AMP. Let me tell you all something. It feels so good to say that, and to start the show with you guys for once.
Yeah, it's good to do it. It's good to have that old feel back. It's like old times. So we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to talk about a very busy week in wrestling and mixed martial arts. But since Jason already alluded to the Cruiserweight Classic, I want to go ahead and get his thoughts on that right now.
Yeah. Last night I was tweeting out with both NXT and the Cruiserweight Classic. I was saying, what we're about to see here is going to be better than anything we'll see at Battleground. And the Cruiserweight Classic didn't fail to disappoint. I was pleasantly surprised. First match was Grand Metallic, although as he's known in New Japan and CMLL as Mascara Dorada, and boy did he hit a sweet-looking Brio Dorada on his opponent Alejandro Saez.
Saez,
sure.
I believe.
Saez, but oh my God, Saez hit this sick running moonsault off the ring apron to Dorada on the outside, which impressed me. But of course, it was Mascara Dorada winning with the Dorada driver. I'm not going to call him Grand Metallic because he's as Roddy Piper once said, that's Tony Atlas.
All right. Speaking of calling, we should probably also mention who was calling the matches on commentary.
We had Mauro Ranallo and Daniel Bryan calling the action. So for once when I was watching WWE, and I didn't do this for NXT either, I actually watched the English language broadcast. I did not, look for a Spanish language version of this. But yeah, to all the angry marks out there who just really hate WWE, it does get a little bit better when you change to Spanish commentary, even if you don't know Spanish.
Although, on the other hand, the fact that they're doing a Canadian and American calling the action, I had Peter send me a text message and say, hey, they're ripping off Angry Marks, whether it's Club Up or Shut Up or AMP, a Canadian and an American, that's already been done.
That's our gimmick.
Yes, they stole it, but we'll let them have it.
But it was good, and it was nice hearing Mauro Ranallo mention New Japan by name, and, he didn't mention CMLL by name, but he said that, Grand Metallic has worked for one of the oldest promotions in Mexico, let alone the world, and has worked in Japan. And it was nice to hear that. It was nice that they could say things exist outside of WWE, which was refreshing.
They were basically given free rein to mention every promotion other than TNA.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't I don't know if they're allowed to mention CMLL either. They really seem to shy away from mentioning that by name specifically.
But I don't think it's explicitly banned the way TNA is.
I don't think it's banned.
They never once mentioned TNA at all. They didn't even hint at it, unlike CMLL. They
had 0-1 I heard dropped. I'm like, yes. It's like hearing just all these different things. It's like, yes, finally they admit things outside of WWE do exist.
All right, well, let's talk about the second match. We've already spent enough time talking about commentary, so go on.
Next match was Ho Ho Lun versus Daivari's brother, and I really, really, really wanted Ho Ho Lun to be boring so I could call him Ho Han Lun, but yeah, he wasn't. Unfortunately, this dude could go. The only Chinese wrestler that I know of, and he ended up picking up a win over Daivari, who he kind of dominated him for most of the match, but yeah, Lun managed to pick up the win.
And if you don't mind me commenting on that, I'm very familiar with Arya Daivari. He's been on tour here in Winnipeg and in Canada here for CWE Wrestling, and he wrestles in Steel Domain Wrestling in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or should I say Richfield, Minnesota. I kind of feel like this Chinese wrestler, I know I did some research on him. He's done a lot in this business to, he pretty much started his own Chinese wrestling company, and he trained himself. And he obviously went to seminars because he continued to grow and develop. However, I don't really feel like this guy deserved to be over against the guy who's honestly, in my opinion, worked harder in this business. So I kind of disagree that the inexperienced Chinese guy gets the victory over Daivari, but hey, that's just the way wrestling goes and that's the way timing goes. I love this whole Cruiserweight Classic tournament. But as for that match, I kind of think that it should have been the other way around because I don't think the other wrestler who won that match deserves it as much as people say he does. And that's the Chinese wrestler.
Jordan, I've got some good news for you. Since I was going to ask you about that, since Arya is Sean's brother, and I had a feeling you had seen both of them on your travels in the region. The good news is that he cut a promo saying he was Sean Daivari's brother. Well, actually, he didn't say Sean. He just said, my brother wrestled for WWE, Daivari. And it's like, okay, you could have distinguished it a little more than that. But that being said, I think the fact that he played that up and he lost this match tells me they're keeping him around for more than just the opening bracket of the Cruiserweight tournament that he lost. I think he's going to be this heel figure who's running throughout the shows trying to get revenge for his brother.
Hopefully. And you know what? I hope they really do that with him because this guy, I've seen this guy in the ring so many times, and this guy can go. This guy deserves a WWE contract, and I know wrestling's about timing, and wrestling's all about being in the right place at the right time, like I said. But they need someone like this guy because he's definitely a great storyteller and a great professional wrestler. And no disrespect towards the Chinese wrestler, I just don't think that he's that experienced yet. I'm honestly just shocked he got the call. He's a great wrestler, but I don't think he's WWE ready just yet.
Well, they are trying to open up the Chinese market. Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I was going to say, one thing that I liked, too, was Mauro Ranallo was talking about how the Chinese wrestler, as Jordan calls him, Ho Ho Lun, was influenced by a lot of heavyweight Japanese wrestlers. He mentioned specifically Misawa, he mentioned Kawada, and I believe he mentioned Kobashi, too. And he was talking about that, and the finisher was a German suplex. So it was interesting to see that heavyweight style employed in a heavyweight style move. It was a beautiful German bridging suplex that Lun won the match with, and it was nice to hear Mauro talk about these heavyweight Japanese legends that have influenced the style of Ho Ho Lun.
Yes, and my point was going to be that with the recent announcement that WWE signed a Chinese wrestler named Ben Wang, and they did the press conference in China where John Cena spoke in very fluent Mandarin, at least from what I could tell, to the people that were there. It seems like they're making a big push to China, and having a guy go over in the opening round of the Cruiserweight Classic who's from there only makes sense. But like I said, don't count Daivari out yet. He'll be back. But let's go on to the next bracket.
Okay, and we had Cedric Alexander versus some French guy.
Oh, yeah, Clement Pitois.
Yeah, I guess he goes by some other name elsewhere, but yeah. I mean,
turning into Jordan with this one. He referred to Ho Ho Lun as some Chinese wrestler, and now you're calling Clement Pitois some French guy.
He's a fraud.
This guy I was impressed to see in the ring with. I've actually got to catch some of the highlights of these matches, and it's sad that the French guy lost. I don't know too much about him, but I love it how they're bringing all these independent talent from around the globe, and it's all in one big tournament. This is like playing when I used to play NHL 16 and I used different teams from different leagues and different players played each other. This is really cool for me.
You know, Jordan, you say you don't know much about him. I can give you some information because I know Clement Pitois a little bit. He was trained by Lance Storm and Joey Ryan, and he's already wrestled all around the world and in Europe. In fact, his WWE bio even goes out of its way to mention one of my favorite wrestlers, a guy that Triple H actually released from NXT, God knows why, Chris Hero. It points out that he and Chris Hero have worked together, so you can look up Chris Hero versus Clement Patois anywhere on YouTube and probably watch that match.
Definitely. Well, Chris Hero is also a former Wrestling World 247 interviewee passed back, so definitely I should check that out.
Former AMP interviewee, as I interviewed him live at an IWA Mid-South show. That was a fun night.
And that's something I gotta see one day down the road. I gotta check out Indiana and see IWA Mid-South. Definitely, that's definitely on the wrestling bucket list for Jordan J. Garber.
What's funny is I wasn't even in Indiana for that show. That IWA Mid-South Ted Petty Invitational Tournament was in Illinois.
Well,
But anyway.
I'm just saying in general, because IWA...
Right. I know, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Anyway, sorry, Jason, I did kind of hijack the show by talking about Patois there, so back to you.
Yeah, back to the Cedric Alexander show here. One thing that I was impressed with too, and again, Mauro Ranallo is known for calling moves, but they actually used the real name of his finisher, the lumbar check. It's like, holy shit, they're calling a guy's finisher from ROH in a WWE ring by its real name.
And mentioning he was from Ring of Honor too, which very much pleased me since we had just talked to Vita Scott about him a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, indeed, someone who has managed Cedric Alexander and a fellow vegan, woman after my own heart there.
Yes, indeed. And it's nice to see. I just checked his Wikipedia out of curiosity just to see if they'd updated it, and somebody's already edited in the fact that he won the first round of the Cruiserweight Classic, so people are keeping up on him.
Which is good, and yeah, this one I don't have a problem with. It didn't seem like that big of an upset. I mean, this one I saw Cedric winning and he won.
The only way this could be upset would be if it was upsetting that he got disqualified in a later round for not making weight, because at 5'10" and 200 pounds, he's right at that cruiserweight limit. If he lets it slip by a couple of pounds, he's going to get run out of the tournament.
Yeah, and I heard there were some guys that were supposed to be in the tournament but couldn't because they didn't make the weight, and I guess they're treating it really on the nose there.
Yeah, they're actually making it like MMA. They're going to do weigh-ins for each round, and they're going to air the weigh-ins live. So anybody that doesn't make that 205-pound limit is out.
Yeah, which is surprising, and yeah, some of them are like right there. Although, yeah, interesting to note, I was listening to what the build weight for Nakamura was on NXT beforehand, and he was like right at that division for heavyweight. He was right at 220 for New Japan, just kind of on a side note there for what their heavyweights are supposed to be billed at. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the guy must have been cutting it close. Patois, or whatever his name was, he must have been cutting it real close to that weight limit.
Yeah, I think they're both big boys. They were pretty well matched up with each other.
Yeah, it was a good match. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And on to the next bracket.
And yeah, the final one, and yeah, since Abby's not here, I'm going to call him Kota I Botched It, just because that's what I called him. That's what I called him back in the day in New Japan. I mean, it's not because he's a bad wrestler. He just, in New Japan, he would just go for things that were just way, I mean, sometimes he would overshoot moonsaults out of the ring and, land head first on the guardrail. It's like, ow. I have respect for Kota Ibushi, but affectionately, I will call him Kota I Botched It.
Yeah, I will not go there. I know you're getting in one on Abby's expense since she's not here, but possibly one of my three favorite wrestlers of 2016 from seeing him live at Eddie Dean's Ranch over Dallas WrestleMania weekend. So I got to cheer for him to go all the way in this.
Yeah, he kind of seems like the perennial favorite, and he faced off against Sean Maluda, a guy who I was looking at, and I'm like, man, I wish that wasn't Sean Maluda. I wish that was Barbaro Cavernario, and I tweeted that, and of course he liked it and retweeted it, because that's what Barbaro Cavernario does whenever you mention him in a tweet. But yeah, Sean Maluda was no joke. His Twitter handle is @SavatKick, and boy did he deliver one to Kota Ibushi that nearly got a pinfall.
Kind of ironic for him to use a Savat kick, since in WWE's bios and previews they were playing up his Samoan heritage, but that's a French martial arts move.
Yes, the guy before, Mr. Patois, should have used the Savat kick.
Oh.
He is French. He is not Canadian like your John Candy.
Yeah, not just Canadian, and the kind of the bottom of Canada, I'm in Winnipeg, so you gotta love Canada though. You gotta love Calgary, Vancouver, and Toronto. But besides that, and the scenery.
Let's not insult our Quebec brethren though. We love Quebec.
Oh, I love Quebec.
Go
all of Canada's good. All of Canada's good. Great. I'd rather visit than live, but Canada's still good.
All right, so thus concludes our first night of the Cruiserweight Classic, coming as it did after WWE NXT, which was basically a one-match show. There was a promo between Rhino and Samoa Joe, but other than that, the bulk of the time was well taken up by Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Which was good. The only thing that I didn't like is they keep breaking for these promo commercials, and this is on the WWE Network, and all they're showing are promos for WWE shows. Why? What does that accomplish?
I know, but they treat it like it's a real television network, so they gotta take real commercial breaks, even if the commercial breaks are only for their own product.
Yeah, it just doesn't make, especially for something like this, where you could have hyped it up as, saying uninterrupted, something like that. For an event like this, it took away a little bit from the match. It was still a phenomenal match. I wouldn't say it was a match of the year candidate. I wouldn't even say it was Nakamura's best match or in Nakamura's short list for matches of the year, but it was a good match, and it ended the way that it should have ended, Nakamura going over Finn Balor, but it wasn't a cakewalk by any means either.
No. And two things about that. One, if you want the live without the commercial breaks, that's going to be your NXT TakeOver event. So you'll just have to look forward to Nakamura at the next show in Brooklyn. And
taking on Samoa Joe.
Exactly. Thank you. And second thought on that, which you kind of just took out of my mouth, was that he's going to have a big match because it's going to be against the current NXT champion. So in short order, Nakamura has gone from just the cool guy who showed up over WrestleMania weekend and wrestled Sami Zayn to, holy shit, NXT title shot, skyrocketing straight up like we all thought he would.
Yeah, I don't find that surprising. What I do find surprising is how well he's able to cut promos in English.
Yeah, it's definitely come along quickly for him. And one other thing I'll say about this is that it's pretty clear from this match and the result of this match that we're probably going to see Finn Balor in the draft next week.
Probably, and I really hope he gets drafted to whatever show that Anderson and Gallows go on so they can stop calling them the freaking club and call them the Balor Club and use the Balor Club. Because right now the Balor Club is a club of one.
Yeah, except they abandoned the trademark on the Balor Club, so apparently they were never going to go with that. It was just something they held for a while and let go. Sorry, dude.
WWE.
Well, since we're talking about the draft anyway, let me get Jordan's thoughts really quickly on what brand he would like to see Finn Balor wrestle to and any of the other guys on NXT. What shows would you like to see them on?
Well, first off, I'd like to start by saying that I think bringing back the WWE draft is a great idea. WWE needs something fresh, and I think the draft is a great first step. And for number two, why I love the draft is because I grew up watching wrestling as a kid. I grew up seeing all these brand rivalries. I don't remember if you guys remember the video game SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, but
yeah, I have that video game.
There is the draft for that game. So this is like going back into my childhood sort of thing, and they're gonna bring back some surprises and bring back some former stars. So I think now is the time to kind of watch WWE if people give this draft a chance. I'm very excited. As for your question in regards to Finn Balor, hopefully we see any brand. As long as I can see some fantastic wrestling, and obviously watching Finn Balor, that happens. But if I had to choose, let's get him on SmackDown because that's going to help SmackDown boost ratings even more. And hopefully this whole draft is going to help WWE's ratings boost up even more.
Well, that's certainly what USA Network wants. That's why SmackDown's going live on Tuesdays. That's why they're splitting up the brands. That's why they believe that it won't even hurt to have a second screen experience during the draft. They are actually running head-to-head with the WWE draft on SmackDown, but they feel like it's going to be so big that it won't hurt their audience.
Definitely. This is a good thing for WWE. It's a good idea, and if they bring back all these surprises and do all that, the future might be good for the WWE. It definitely looks like it if this draft goes well, in my opinion.
Well, one surprise they probably won't be bringing back based on today's news is Tommy Dreamer, because he was backstage at SmackDown and they were apparently talking to him about coming back full time, but there was a catch. They said, if you do come back, you can't run your House of Hardcore shows. You can't run a promotion while you work for our promotion.
Well, that makes sense. WWE is the most elite company in the world, and there's nothing personal in asking him to do that. If he was doing it part-time, I would understand it, but if they brought him back full-time, then you have to have 100% of your focus towards the company you work for, and if you're working for the most prestige company in the world, that's pretty much all you can pay attention to.
That's true, but it does raise the age-old issue that we've talked about on many episodes of this show, is that if they are contractors and not employees, they should be able to book their own dates and do their own things. But if they're employees and not contractors, then they should be covered by health insurance, they should have benefits, they should be able to unionize. It's WWE trying to have their cake and eat it too by saying, you work for us under contract, but we can still tell you where to go and what to do.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Jason, any thoughts?
In 2016, I don't know what kind of a draw that Tommy Dreamer is going to be. I wasn't the biggest fan of Tommy Dreamer back in 1996, so 20 years later.
Say that.
I know WWE is trying to get as many guys as they can, and I'll go back to 1996 a little later in the show here. But the thing with the draft that doesn't impress me is you're not really differentiating the rosters. From what we've heard, you're going to have John Cena heading up one roster and Roman Reigns heading up another, where if you really wanted to do something different, throw your guys like Roman Reigns and John Cena and your diesel guys like Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews, throw that WWF style guys all onto one roster, have it be a big Hoss Fest, a big whatever the hell you want to have it on Monday nights, and bring your guys like Dean Ambrose and Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura and Kevin Owens and the guys that don't look like your typical WWE champion. Bring those guys over to SmackDown, have them go on Thursday nights or Tuesday nights, I guess it is now, and have that be your SmackDown show. But yeah, it just seems like it's going to be kind of just willy-nilly divvied up here and there with just random guys going places with no real rhyme or reason to it.
Jason, you made an unintentional pun there that I've got to call out. You said, put your Diesel guys on Raw. You weren't talking about Kevin Nash, though, were you?
No, but I wanted to at some point.
Well, it's funny because I just happened to see an article on the Newswire with Kevin Nash saying the very same thing you just said about the roster depth and not having enough guys. He said, we did the split in 02, but they've had a rash of injuries. A lot of guys are coming back now, but when you start splitting things up, it just shows the lack of depth there is all the way through. So Kevin Nash is actually making the same point you are.
Kind of, yeah. If you're going to do it, you do it to make sense. And yeah, with the rash of injuries and with your havoc, it's like now might not be the best time to do it either. Not that there is a good time to do it unless you're actually going to follow through and have two distinct shows. And I think if you're going to have two distinct shows, I think SmackDown needs to be rebranded itself. I think the name is tired. It's something that's tied to The Rock, who's no longer with the company. And it's a show that needs a name update.
I'm not sure it's going to get that because they have too much invested in the trademark, the logo, and as Jordan already alluded to, the whole series of SmackDown versus Raw video games, which they're probably going to bring back now that they're going to have brand extension again. So I hate to say it, but the name is not going away. Although, if what I'm hearing is true, that underneath Shane McMahon, the general manager is going to be Daniel Bryan, I can definitely see SmackDown differentiating itself from Raw in that it's the babyface show with the babyface COO and the babyface GM, and probably it will turn out to be the show that'll have the more high-flying, more exciting wrestlers, whereas Raw will continue to be the big, muscular, massive guys and the occasional guys that can do the high-flying work.
It's like, hopefully that's true. That would be a good pairing, but again, we'll have to see with the draft who ends up going to SmackDown. Even if you do have, Shane is the money guy behind it, and you have Daniel Bryan as the commissioner running the day-to-day stuff. If you're throwing guys there that don't really fit the style, it's all well and good on paper, but it's gotta gel. It's gotta be cohesive. You gotta get the right guys onto SmackDown that can work that style.
That's true. We'll just have to wait and see next Tuesday. Nobody knows for sure right now. WWE is playing a lot of this close to the vest, so I can't even say that my Daniel Bryan prediction about being the SmackDown GM is 100% certain, but it's trending in that direction based on rumor mill and dirt sheet reports. And obviously Daniel Bryan is comfortable being back in the fold again since he's calling the action on the Cruiserweight Classic. So his self-imposed vacation from wrestling is over. Go ahead, Jordan.
We saw the news story on WWE.com. They kind of gave it away a little bit, as many sites confirmed too. So they WWE get themselves into hot water by doing that and releasing something too early by accident. Think of it that way too.
Yeah.
That's probably what it's going to be now.
I know it was on their mobile app before they took down that post, but there's two ways to look at it. One, they released it early and then they deleted it. Or two, they deleted it because that was just a tentative plan and they hadn't finalized it.
Well, I understand. Well, hey, maybe it's just something they brought up just like you said, but the only thing we do know is that we're going to find out at the WWE draft.
That is true. So one of those major things that we can look forward to finding out on Tuesday is who's going to be the GMs on Raw and SmackDown and who's going to which brand. So something to get interested in and find out what's going on and enjoy it, because there will be tons of ways to watch it. Like I said, there will be a second screen running throughout the draft. It'll be live on Tuesday night, and that'll be the new permanent home for SmackDown, live on Tuesdays, which led to another bit of wrestling news this week, is that TNA is abandoning Tuesday nights and going back to their old home of Thursdays. And I guess I'll just get predictions from both of you on that. Do you think this will help or hurt TNA moving back to Thursdays? I'll start with Jason.
I don't think it will help or hurt. I don't think you're going to see a move in the ratings one way or the other. I think TNA is at the point where it's got its fans who are hardcore and diehard, and they're going to tune into TNA regardless of what night it's on. I don't think it's going to increase the ratings. I don't think it's going to decrease the ratings.
All right, Jordan, what do you think?
Well, TNA, we all do know that the product has not been as popular as it has been recently. However, from DJZ, the winner of the exact ladder match from Destination X the other day, said to Jordan Garber in an interview, which you can obviously read online, just search on Google DJZ Jordan Garber, and you'll find it somewhere on the hundreds of sites it's on. DJZ states that the fans need to give TNA a chance. And that's the point right there that I conclude to. I just think everyone needs to give TNA a chance. They signed a bunch of young new talent who have paid their dues in the indies, have been in this business for a long time. So, TNA, I don't think it's going to be hard to make TNA be what it used to be, but there's still a lot of potential for this company, and people just need to watch it. Sit down on the couch, grab some popcorn, and give it a chance. I think this is a big help, honestly. And seeing Moose debut too, definitely a great addition. I'm all for TNA. I have nothing to say against it, and I just think people need to give the product a chance.
Very true. Now, who saw Impact this week? Jordan, did you see it?
I caught a bit of it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to develop an educated opinion, because I did work I was at work till late, till 10, so I couldn't, unfortunately, watch it, but I did watch some of the highlights. I saw the Moose debut, the Matt Hardy segments, and DJZ, winning the, contest. So definitely, that's all I saw, so I can't say.
Yeah, those were the three things I was going to ask you about anyway, so 1, 2, 3, you nailed them all in one shot, so you saw the important parts.
Definitely.
Well, I guess that's my next question then, is Moose Ojinaka debuting in Impact Wrestling and reportedly making 75 this year and 90 next year. So not the kind of money we're used to hearing wrestlers making, but then we're also used to WWE guys getting six figures. But then again, this might be a lot more than he was making in Ring of Honor, provided TNA doesn't go belly up before the end of the year. So thoughts on Moose getting this offer, which is apparently 75 or 90, one or the other per year, and 110 dates per year. Will this be good for him? Will this be bad for him? I'll start with Jason.
Oh, he should have held out for New Japan. he was getting over in New Japan, and Tanahashi was stealing the Moose chants, and I just think there'd be more stability, like you were saying. If TNA goes under, then, is his contract guaranteed? Is he still getting paid, or is he kind of screwed out of the money then? This just doesn't seem like the right time for anybody to go to TNA.
Well, it's funny you say that because Alberto Del Rio made that point in an interview just a day or two ago and said that I considered TNA as an option when I was looking to come back from Mexico, but it's fun. I like the choice of wording he used, so I'm going to quote him exactly. He said, but unfortunately, TNA does not have the wherewithal to pay me. Basically implying that they could go broke at any moment, which they've been teetering on the brink of for several months now.
Yeah, they may pull a Paul Heyman on the ECW in the late 90s.
Well, that's the funny part, though. The talent is actually getting paid on time. The people that they run out of money to pay are the production people who tape the damn TV.
Yeah, that's just as bad.
It is. It's no good either way you slice it. But let me get Jordan's thoughts on Moose going from ROH to TNA.
It was not too long ago when I was talking with Moose at one of the Ring of Honor shows in Hopkins, Minnesota, and before when setup was finished and the show was about to get underway, he walked into the arena and we had a nice 5-minute chat. And the guy being a former Wrestling World 247 interviewee, Moose and Jordan Garber were not strangers to each other, so seeing him debut in TNA is definitely a great thing to see. And probably he's not making as much as he did in the NFL, but I'll tell you what, at least he's got a shot, and now he's kind of moved a level up in my opinion. Now, Jason, I know you might comment, Ring of Honor is bigger than TNA, but I just kind of think of it as a new experience for Moose. He's making more money here. Let's see where he takes this. It's all up to him.
Yeah, and if we've seen anything from veterans of TNA in the past, it's that they can definitely use it as a stepping stone to get into NXT or New Japan or anywhere else they want to go. You just won't get to mention that you were in TNA once you get there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I also mentioned that Matt Hardy had the follow-up to the Final Deletion. Once again, I find the cinematic approach that they have to these segments, it's entertaining to me because I like just the general campiness and wackiness of it. The characters, the servants and the maids and the gardeners and all these other people that they bring in to play these parts for these Matt Hardy skits. So I enjoy that aspect of it. I don't know if it's the kind of professional wrestling that people want, but it definitely gives TNA something that makes them stand out in an already overcrowded landscape where they're like fourth in a 3-man race. It's like, it's good for them to do this because it gets people interested in talking about TNA. So I was all for another Final Deletion segment. And the fact that he actually gave the dilapidated boat a name, I'm going to botch the name, but I think he said it was Skarsgård. I just love the fact that he gave the boat a name.
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård, that's it. So, Jason, what do you think of this?
At first I didn't like these TNA segments that, like the Final Deletion, and then I decided to watch Raw in Spanish on Monday, and I saw the New Day and the Wyatt segment, and that gave me a whole new appreciation for what TNA has been doing with these vignettes.
So are you actually saying that they're ripping it off? Because a lot of people have said that the Wyatt family were ripping off Final Deletion.
It was like they were ripping it off, but they were only going halfway in ripping it off. If you're going to rip something off, go all the way with it. And I guess that's what I'm kind of applauding TNA for is, it's stupid and it's batshit crazy, but at least they're going full force with the stupid and the batshit crazy, where WWE seems to have training wheels on, and it's just kind of like, it's like they're doing this stupid segment, but it's limited in its stupidity. And if you're going to do a stupid segment, go all out full stupid. Don't hold back on this stupid.
Right, yeah. Actually go all the way to the point where you're just as insane as Broken Matt Hardy is, and that you want all these things to be documented for history.
I think the fact that Lucha Underground exists and does things that are on that level or above that level show that there is an audience out there that likes wrestling, that likes the zany over-the-top skits, and can be incorporated into the right kind of show. TNA just kind of seems to like pepper that in every once in a while, and it's kind of like, eh. But yeah, then watching the WWE do their version of it, it's just like so watered down. It's just like, oh, it gave me a new appreciation for Brother Nero and Broken Matt Hardy.
All right, let me kick it over to Jordan on that. You've seen enough of it that you can comment on the Matt Hardy segment this week, and you saw Raw, so why don't you compare and contrast? Who do you think does it better, the Wyatt family or Broken Matt? Did we lose Jordan?
Jordan.
Oh no.
Sorry about that. Sorry. I muted my microphone by accident.
For a second, I thought you had been deleted.
Oh, no one's deleting the Jordan J. Garber. No one is deleting the Garber Snake, but I will tell you why. You have to understand, WWE is a PG product. I still believe TNA is 14, or PG-13, or whatever you want to say what rating it is. So the Wyatt family can't do as many, they have certain barriers, just like TNA has certain barriers. Honestly though, as an entertainment value, we see the Wyatt family every week. This is fresh. I like seeing the fresh things, fresh off the press, and that's what's going on with the final deletion thing. I think this is ridiculous, but ridiculous in a good way. So I think this whole thing is sweet. Obviously we know what's gonna happen. Jeff Hardy's gonna come back, he's gonna get his revenge. But, man, what a storyline. I think it's unique. I think what TNA's trying to do is a very good thing. And like you said, Jason, WWE does do their dumb shit, but like there's training wheels on it. This TNA doesn't have training wheels on this. They're literally, it's kind of like riding down a bike, taking your training wheels off and running into a hill. But in a good way. In a good way.
And that's exactly the kind of thing that Jeff and Matt are doing. They're literally running into walls anytime they want to. So why not? Why not go for it? But I think you both raised an excellent point. It's one, WWE can't do it because they're PG, and another is WWE won't do it because they just won't go that far, even if they aren't PG. So it's going to be TNA winning this battle. It's a rare war win for them in what Abby would say was never a war to begin with, because how could an army go to war with somebody on a tricycle? She would just say that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, props to TNA for doing it right, and the Wyatt family comes off looking like copycats. So, not necessarily the best look for WWE. But we move on. We've got other things to talk about, such as Brock Lesnar returning to UFC and getting literally huge win over Mark Hunt. And Jason, I know you saw this.
Yes, I watched from 8 p.m. on. I watched the 8 p.m. undercard all the way through the main event, and yeah, the one thing that I noticed with the Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt fight, just the difference in the heavyweight division, where when you have a guy with the size and the strength of Brock Lesnar, who when he bull rushes you and takes you to the mat with a takedown, there is just no style and no guard to defend against that. If Brock Lesnar, or any heavyweight for that matter, wants to put somebody on the mat, they are going to do it and do it at will, and that's what we saw from Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, the only defense for Brock Lesnar is offense. You have to punch him in the face before he gets to your legs.
Pretty much, or as he's going to shoot for your legs, just, throw a knee or something, as he's charging, catch him on the way in, counterpunch, basically.
Yeah, and it can be done. Brock Lesnar does have 3 UFC losses, so it's not like he can't be beaten, but you gotta have the perfect technique and the perfect timing.
And yeah, this was just, Brock, he would take Hunt down, ground and pound, and then pretty much it would be until the bell for the end of the round would sound that separated them. I don't believe they were stood up very often, if at all.
I'm trying to remember if and when
they
were.
My notes here.
If it was, it would have been in the first round, because in the second round, there really wasn't much going on by either man. The first and the third round were where Brock really dominated on the ground.
Yeah, it's like Brock had attempted a takedown in that second round. It just didn't work. They're kind of up against the cage, and they were locked up against the cage for the last 40 seconds of that second round. But yeah, rounds 1 and round 3 were just Brock was like, I'm going to take you down, and then I'm going to pound on your head. And that's exactly what he did.
And in doing so, not only did he pick up a win, but he shot back into the UFC heavyweight rankings. He's now ranked number 8. So let me get Jason's thoughts on WWE superstar Brock Lesnar, who's going to be headlining at SummerSlam with Randy Orton, now being in the UFC heavyweight rankings.
UFC is a legitimate sport, and Brock Lesnar just picked up a legitimate win. I don't think that it's out of the realm of the norm that he is ranked because he beat someone in the heavyweight division. We'll see if and when he comes back to fight in UFC, but yeah, I mean, I think it's great for Brock Lesnar. I think it really sucks for Randy Orton now because I don't think you can do anything believable with Randy Orton other than just have him getting squashed.
Yeah, that is the danger here, and Orton just coming off shoulder surgery, maybe not the greatest timing on that. So, Jordan, your thoughts on that?
I'm going to say something, and it's going to be a gamble thing to say, but I don't think, as in Brock Lesnar's MMA record, that we're going to see this guy get defeated. This guy is a beast. How old is this guy? This guy is over 40. And
39. He's 39.
39, my apologies. But he's almost 40. And he's fighting in the UFC like this? And he's still having this dominance? That's unbelievable. I don't think this guy, they have their next major show, which is, I believe obviously they have every major show in July, and then they have one on the first few months of it. They have 2 major shows. And if Brock Lesnar wrestles on each of those 2 major shows every year, I don't think he's going to lose any match in the entirety of the rest of his career. This guy's a beast. This guy's a monster. And this guy continues to do so. And he's just proven that age is just a number. Most fighters, Mark Hunt's quite an older guy himself too. And it definitely showed it within that fight. Lesnar destroyed him. And you kind of noticed what he was doing in the beginning of the match. All he was doing is simply laying down on top of him. And that's all he was doing. Putting all of his weight on them to soften him up. And then to finish the fight, it was insane. This guy's a beast. He's an animal. And I don't think we're going to see this guy get defeated in a UFC event any time in the near future. Or at all. And that's my prediction.
All right, but specifically, I also want to know your thoughts about Randy Orton coming in to face him at SummerSlam. Is this a good idea or a bad idea?
Well, I think what they're trying to do is WWE's trying to pull something out of the hat with something exciting. We haven't seen Randy Orton for a long time in a WWE ring. So it's going to be an exciting match, but it's nothing I'm going to be canceling any doctor's appointments for. It's one of those events where it's going to be a great match. Yeah, I can't wait to see it if I have the chance to see it, if you know what I mean. But I think this is a good thing being done by WWE. It's a step in the right direction of the card. But this can't be the only thing about SummerSlam. They just can't have this match. They got to deliver it more, and I'm sure they will. It is the WWE after all.
Yeah, and I don't want Orton to get hurt and be out again for another year, so hopefully things go well in that match. But when Brock Lesnar picks you up for his chain suplexes and the crowd counts along for each one, you just kind of have to go for the ride. Speaking of which, I'm about to be taken on a detour by our producer, Kevin Fields. So which way are you taking us, brother?
Well, I just wanted to mention that since TNA Impact Wrestling is moving back to Thursday nights, so is the Impact Implosion with Seth Draken and Mike Poulin.
Ah, very good. So they're going to be following us immediately after AMP on Thursdays.
Yes, indeed. And also, along with that, after a very long hiatus, we will be bringing back the SmackDown Rundown on Tuesday nights.
Awesome. Now, who's going to be hosting?
Our host for that show is going to be Mr. Doug Sudia, who has been helping us out on several shows over the last couple of months, and co-hosting with him will be Mike Poulin.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that new iteration of SmackDown Rundown, but I hope that doesn't just completely rule out the old iteration. I hope that we'll still be able to get Nikolai and King J back occasionally to jump in on that as well.
And Jordan Garver, because he's a former SmackDown Rundown co-host.
Yes, and Jordan too, so many possibilities. Yeah, there could be a lot of different tag team combinations, if you will.
I don't think Kevin Fields like the Jordan J. Garber running the SmackDown idea. Just kidding.
There's nothing wrong with Jordan J. Garber liking the SmackDown Rundown. The only problem is Jordan J. Garber has another job on Tuesday nights.
I do, and that is the tapings of the Snake Pit and the CWE podcast featuring some of Canadian wrestling's greatest stars. So definitely, you know what? You do make a valid point there, but there is an exception, Ms. Killer Kev, is CWE does tours, and that's once every 3 months, and these tours last up to 3 weeks long. So when I am not doing the Snake Pit, you can count me in as a co-host on the SmackDown Rundown.
All right, well, many things to look forward to. The Snake Pit with Jordan Garber and SmackDown Rundown on Tuesdays, Impact Implosion on Thursdays, Doug Sudia and Mike Poulin doing the SmackDown Rundown, and maybe an occasional run-in by Jordan when he's not doing a Snake Pit. So all things you can look forward to. But getting back to things that went on Saturday night, Jason, what other thoughts did you have on UFC 200?
Oh yeah, the 300-pound elephant in the room here, and this is something that I had wanted to ask you ever since the pay-per-view went off the air. But does Amanda Nunes winning the UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship, the fact that in the last 3 times the title has been on the line, it has been unsuccessfully defended, does the hot-shotting, if you will, of this title detract from the legitimacy of the women's bantamweight division?
I don't agree that it detracts from the legitimacy. I think what we're seeing now is the ice dam breaking apart and everything coming through. All that flooding water just rushing in at once, because for the longest time it was dammed up by Ronda Rousey just dominating every single opponent that faced her until she ran into Holly Holm and her superior striking technique and got taken for a ride in that fight. Since that time, what we've seen is these floodgates just opening up, and everybody that was stuck behind Ronda Rousey that couldn't get over the hump suddenly is now motivated and energized. And I think it's actually a good thing for the women's bantamweight division, because once they were all looking at the top of the mountain going, I can never reach that peak. And now everybody's got a chance at it. Everybody's going to get a chance to fight for it. And to me, it's basically the same thing that happened once Chuck Liddell lost the light heavyweight title years and years ago. Is for a long time he was the king of that mountain and nobody could knock him off. And the same thing happened with Anderson Silva once he lost the middleweight title. Was for a long time he was the king of that mountain and nobody could knock him off. And eventually we're going to get one person in the women's bantamweight division who will be able to successfully defend it. But in the meantime, I say let's just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I mean, there have been entertaining matches, and yeah, Rousey got, just KO kicked in the head and then choked out by Holm, and then Tate takes out Holm, and now we have Nunes just kind of catching with some strikes. Nunes cut Tate
Busted
and
Tate
then
up pretty darn good.
Yeah,
That
got that nose
was
all nice and bloodied.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people are saying that Tate would have done better if she hadn't had such a hard weight cut. Did she look like she was not herself to you? Because a lot of people seem to be saying that.
In terms of, body size, no. In terms of fighting style, absolutely she didn't look like herself.
Yeah, she definitely seemed to be unhappy and not quite herself and not at the level of Miesha Tate that we know she's capable of. And if she gets a rematch, who knows what we'll see in that second fight. But who knows? Like you said, it's been changing hands so fast that Tate may not even get a rematch before Nunes loses it to somebody else. We'll see if Nunes can be the first person to defend it in a while.
Yeah, that would be nice, because, I don't want to say she came out of nowhere. I had seen her on some previous UFC cards, but yeah, I mean, I was not expecting her at all to win the championship, and yeah, she came out of the gate swinging and striking and hit an illegal knee to the head that was allowed to go, and yeah, I mean, she took it right to Tate and won the title for it.
You want to know what's funny is I made picks for Wrestling Observer for UFC 200 and a couple other things, and there were only 2 fights on that card that I got wrong, and one was Tate losing the title. I picked her to win, so sad that didn't turn out my way. But the other, the 2 in my 8-2 was Eddie Alvarez taking the title from Rafael dos Anjos a couple of nights earlier. I didn't predict 2 new champions in one weekend, but that's what we got.
That's what we got. And we had, what was the interim title that was set up on this one?
That was
Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo.
Jose Aldo. Right. And Jose Aldo pretty much whipped his ass almost the entire fight. The only good round Frankie Edgar had was the first.
Yeah, which was really close. Looking at my notes here where I said, I'd give it to Aldo, but maybe only by 1 point over Edgar. It was a close round, the first one.
Well, that's actually how the scoring system works, is you give the winner 10 and the opponent 9 or less. So winning by 1 point is actually kind of the rule.
Well, yeah, I would give it to him by 0.5 or 0.25. I mean, it was damn close, but the other two rounds were all Aldo. And yeah, I mean, aside from the Miesha Tate, Amanda Nunes fight, everything else went the distance.
That's true. At least on the main card it did. And,
yep.
Except for Cain Velasquez, that fight didn't go the distance.
Oh, that was the TKO, yeah, the first one, yeah.
Right, Travis Brown. Basically the heavyweight champion returning to the form of old.
Yeah, just coming in there, pounding him, and the referee stopping it with 3 seconds left in the round.
Yeah, that was razor close. The only thing I saw closer than that was Keita Nakamura fighting Kyle Noak just last night on UFC in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And that fight, he was so close to surviving the round, but Nakamura sunk in that choke super deep, and there was no chance for him to get away from it. He tapped with 1 second left to go on the round, so a huge win for Keita Nakamura.
Wow.
That was a fun show. There were a lot of exciting matches last night, but hey, there have been a lot of exciting MMA matches in the last 7 days in general. So if you want to listen to even more talk about all the things that happened in MMA, including the sale of UFC, check out this week's Glove Up or Shut Up with our special guest, Todd Martin. But it's just about getting to the top of the hour here, so I think we're going to start to wrap it up for the evening. A little shorter show than usual since Abby wasn't here, but still a lot of fun things being discussed. And I'll go for cheap plugs at this point. So, Jordan, what do you want to plug?
Oh, there's lots of stuff coming up for Jordan Garber. If you guys haven't checked it out yesterday, check out Jordan Garber now with current Impact Wrestling star Marshe Rockett. That is on VOCNation.com or TheBradyHicks.com. Just go on the archive section and check out that great interview. He talks about working with Dean Ambrose and was wondering at the time, would Dean Ambrose be where he is today? Check it out to find out his answer. Next show I'm on, I'm involved with Primetime Wrestling in Bloomington, Minnesota. That is this Saturday on the 16th, I believe. I'll be attending or being involved. I don't know totally what's going on yet, but play it by ear. One thing I for sure know I'll be involved in is Primos Wrestling Canada presents Slave to the Cage match. Saturday, July the 23rd in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Churchill Park United Church. 525 Beresford Avenue, and tickets are $15. Showtime 7 p.m. And check out the Snake Pit on CWECanada.ca's YouTube channel as well. I know, guys, I'm crazy. I have like a Santa's list of plugs, but you know what? For the wrestling world, Jordan Garber, everything's going great for Jordan Garber. It's crazy too because I always complained about being single, and it's like now I have something to occupy me, and that's pro wrestling. That's one thing that will never leave you. Definitely. So, great to be keeping busy with pro wrestling, man. I'm enjoying the ride by the day.
Well, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun having you on for the whole show tonight. Jordan, thanks for being with us for a full edition of AMP.
Thank you very much, guys. I can't wait to talk to you guys next week.
Yep, we'll see you next week. And Jason, what do you have to plug before we get off the air tonight?
Before I get to my plugs, there's one thing I do want to mention that kind of completely slipped my mind last week. But yeah, this time last week on the 7th of July, 2016, we have just witnessed the 20-year anniversary of the formation of the NWO.
That's right. That's why Kevin Nash has been so much in the news of late, because everybody wants to talk to him about the history of NWO.
It's hard to believe. It doesn't seem like it was 20 years ago, but time flies.
You want to know something funny? I know I've used that phrase about 3 times this show. It's becoming my real quick, like Blade Braxton. You want to hear something funny, but I got something funny for you. You want to hear this?
Go for it.
I didn't see it at the time, so my first experience with Bash at the Beach was buying the tape off eBay and just going, oh my God, this is even better than I heard. Just watching them throw all that garbage in the ring and seeing Hulk Hogan just totally lay the smackdown on all the Hulkamaniacs. I was blown away because I had only heard about it and I'd only read about it. Once I got that tape in the mail, I was transfixed. I'm like, this literally is one of the greatest moments in the history of wrestling. Just seeing Hulk Hogan turn heel and crap on everybody, and the fans crap right back on him in return. It was glorious.
It was great, and yeah, I mean, even before that, I can remember watching. I think it must have been Nitro, the one where Scott Hall shows up and he goes, "Yeah, and everybody else in WCW," doing like the yokel thing, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness!" I'm like, well, I love WCW. I love the fact that you're calling them out on being yokels.
Yeah, it definitely set the trend that we're seeing the fruits bearing of today of cool heel factions. Like, they were bad guys, but they became popular bad guys because they were running roughshod on everybody else, and fans got into it and enjoyed it. And we're seeing those fruits that have come to bear with stables like Los Ingobernables de Japón that have just completely run roughshod.
Yeah, before them, like Chaos. It's like, I don't think New Japan has had a face stable. It's like all their stables started out as heel stables.
Bullet Club, yeah, they were popular because they're bad guys. It's
Grand Bash heels, yeah. Bullet Club was kind of your spiritual successor to the NWO.
Very much so. In fact,
we got to see Finn Balor doing the 2 Sweet in the match against Nakamura, and they actually called it a 2 Sweet, which was awesome.
Which is funny, because that brings us full circle back to Kevin Nash, because he talked in that same interview I referenced earlier where he talked about the draft. He also talked about the 2 Sweet and how he gave the club his endorsement to use it. So I guess that'll be my final note before I go back to you for plugs, is here's what he had to say. Quote, "If you're over enough to use that and people don't shit on you, you're over. I don't mind it at all. I didn't like them bringing in Doc and Anderson, then having that 6-man elimination match. There's no reason to beat those 2 guys coming in the door. You're missing heel talent, and you're going to beat those 2 guys?" But then they corrected it. It's almost like no one can go over except us, even though you were over someplace else. They make reference to AJ like he was a Japan guy. He was a TNA guy. He was in Japan for a year. And the thing is, he's tearing TV up. So, kind of getting in a little dig there in the process of putting over the fact that the club is 2 Sweet.
Kind of. I mean, I'll say that AJ was in Japan for a year, but while he was there, he won one of the most prestigious titles in the sport of professional wrestling. Probably the most prestigious title in Japan right now. So.
And he was basically saying in a very roundabout way that these guys were over in Japan and WWE should have used them better at the start.
By all means, yes.
So with that said, we're going to plug New Japan World because it is the best 999 yen that you can spend. And I know that I'm stealing Jason's line when I do that, but I just want to go ahead and get it out of the way now. It's $9.43. So go and buy New Japan World. What else do you have to plug?
And Stevie is a convert because we have got him to subscribe to New Japan World, and Killa Kev is a New Japan World subscriber too. So kudos. I got my my cooking blog, veggiebending.wordpress.com. You can check that out. You can find me on Twitter at Great Sudoku. I do live tweet. Sometimes I'll live tweet NXT, but yeah, I always live tweet pretty much every New Japan show that's out there.
And get Kevin Ario Barbario to retweet you when you do.
Yeah, just tweet at Babarnario and he will retweet and like your tweets and tell him you had, Pop-Tarts for breakfast and he'll retweet you.
That reminds me, I still need to find those new Pop-Tarts. I keep seeing the commercials and I want to try them.
What are the new Pop-Tarts?
They have one that's Orange Crush and one that's root beer.
Slimer's Ecto Pop-Tarts.
I've seen those new Twinkies too, and I've seen a lot of people talking about them. One of my friends on Facebook said, tough choices. Do I buy the Slimer ones or do I buy the others? I'm like, why choose? Buy both.
There you go. And it's not a big Twinkie from what I hear, so that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, that would be one big Twinkie. We're making all kinds of Ghostbusters references. Are you going to go see that?
No. I will certainly pirate it and watch it, but I am not giving Sony my money for what looks very crappy.
I still hold to the thing that it's been so dissected and destructed before it even hits theaters that I feel like somebody should give it a fair chance, and that might just be me.
Well, you do. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find a bootleg copy of it before we go to air next week. And
But
give
it's
my
not-
2 cents on it. But
It's definitely not going to top the original. I am 100% convinced of that.
no, I don't. My fear is it's not even going to live up to Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, or what some people would call Ghostbusters 3, the video game that got all of the original voice actors back, except I guess for Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, I like the video game. I actually watched a director's cut of all the cutscenes that somebody spliced together, including all the bonus footage, and it came out somewhere between like 2.5 and 3 hours, but I enjoyed watching that.
The director's cuts are all the rage right now. We had the Ghostbusters 3 video game director's cut. We had the Final Deletion director's cut. Is there going to be an AMP director's cut? Has somebody cut us down to just the good bits? What's going on here?
The final deletion of Slimer by Brother Venkman.
I can't top that, so I won't try to. I'm just going to go ahead and say, don't forget to check out Jason's blog at veggiebending.wordpress.com. Thursday Night AMP for our producer, Killer Kev, for Jason Harlan, a.k.a. The Great Sudoku, and for myself, Stevie J, and for our guest, Jordan J. Garber. Thanks for listening. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Took it to the limit. Now you're falling off the edge. Too late to